I fell in love with the impoverished student my family sponsored, but he saw me as nothing more than a naive do-gooder. Later, he set a trap and seized all of my family's wealth. With no way out, I was forced to sell my body in the filthiest of places. Those men trampled my dignity without restraint, blows and humiliation rained down on me, and my body became a toy for their vented frustrations. Pregnant, miscarriage, an endless cycle. Yet he stood above, watching me rot with a cold sneer. Steal what's mine, and this is how you pay it back. But what could I, a wealthy heiress, possibly have stolen from a poor student? One, I contracted a disease, and my body is rotting from the inside out. I opened my eyes and was alive again. I only eat rice with a diameter of 5 millimeters. It's the perfect size for traversing the human body's meridian channels. If it's too small, it can get stuck in the lungs and make you cough. If it's too big, it'll churn around in your stomach. Shen Shua stood in the kitchen, bossing everyone around. What are you standing around for? Get to work. Several servants stood around the kitchen, all looking at each other in awkward silence, their faces flushed red. It just dawned on me that Shen Shua, taking advantage of my love for him, did whatever he pleased in my home every day. He was nitpicking and constantly finding fault. He called it being meticulous. I must have been completely love-blind in my past life. If he said shit smelled sweet, I would have nodded along. Looking back now, I was such a fool. Seeing the servant standing still, Shen Shua's face immediately darkened, but the moment he saw me, a nasty smile suddenly spread across his face. Didn't you always say I was the apple of your eye? Your darling here is just craving a bowl of steamed rice. He deliberately drawled out his words. I bestow this great honor upon you. Perfect chance to prove just how much you love me. With that, he upended the sack of rice, scattering grains all over the floor. Pick it up. Now, Shen Shua looked at me with smug satisfaction. As if I were a fool, I suddenly grabbed the iron wok from the stove and swung it hard at Shen Shua's face. Clang, blood gushed from his nose. Pick them up. I grabbed his hair and slammed his face to the floor. You wanted to eat 5 millimeters rice, didn't you? Count every single grain. Shen Shua's glasses flew off, landing far away. He writhed on the ground like a maggot, sobbing. You're insane, you're insane. I snatched the rolling pin and smashed it against his kneecap. So much for your meticulousness. Need me to check if that fracture angle is up to standard? Crumpled on the ground, spitting blood, he still managed to spew venom. Pei Zhao Zhao, even if you get on your knees and lick my feet this time, I will never forgive you. I crouched down and patted his swollen face. Sweetheart, you should be more concerned about when you're going to finish picking up all this rice. I gave the order to the servant. Watch him, he doesn't eat until he's finished, and it has to be exactly 5 millimeters, not a millimeter more. 2. Shen Shua was brought home by my father 3 years ago. My father patted my shoulder and said, Zhao Zhao, this is Shen Shua, he'll be living with us from now on. Good day, young miss, he said with a stiff bow, turning his face away. And just like that, I was spellbound. The colder he was, the more I wanted to get close. I stayed up all night while he had a fever, only to be told I was meddling. I secretly felt a thrill, thinking it was because he cared for me. Once, he scraped his knee playing ball, and I cried my heart out for him. Annoyed by my noise, he grabbed a handful of dirt and shoved it in my mouth, saying, shut up, you're so annoying. And I actually thought he looked cool even when he was angry. Looking back now, I was such a fool back then. The disgust in his eyes was so obvious, yet I was like a blind fool, throwing my warmth against his cold indifference. Later, he schemed to seize my family's fortune, driving me to the brink of despair and forcing me to sell my body to survive. The most vicious part was that he specifically sought out the most depraved lowlifes to humiliate me. Those beasts not only took advantage without paying, but they deliberately got me pregnant and then forced me into an abortion. When I died, there wasn't a single patch of unbroken skin left on my body. Just before the end, Shen Shua crouched down in front of me and said, Pei Zhao Zhao, you took the place that should have been mine. Consider this a mercy. I wanted to know, what position, exactly, could I, the esteemed young lady of the Pei family, have possibly taken from a poor student like him? 3. I had just woken up in the morning when Shen Shua was already standing by my bed. With a look of condescension, he said, Pei Zhao Zhao, here's your chance to make amends. I'm treating my classmates to a meal today. Get me 500,000. What, are you deaf? Seeing my silence, he impatiently nudged me with the tip of his shoe. Hurry up, don't waste my time. Shen Shua, do you remember when you first came to my home? You didn't even have a decent pair of shoes. His expression darkened for a moment before slipping back into that shameless smirk. Cut the crap, your family only helped me to flaunt your wealth, didn't you? Now that I need money, what gives you the right to refuse? I let out a cold laugh, pulled a single yuan note from my wallet, and flung it in his face. This should be enough for a steamed bun. After all, when you first came to my house, you couldn't even afford one. Wang Li, the housekeeper's daughter standing nearby, immediately shrieked, Pei Zhaozhao, who do you think you're fooling? Young Master Shen is someone the master himself favors. How dare you speak to him like that? How dare a traitorous dog like you bark in my presence? Wang Li's face flushed crimson with anger. Shen Shua shielded Wang Li behind him. Lily, don't stoop to this madwoman's level, I laughed bitterly at my own stupidity. How had I never noticed there was something going on between those two? Pei Zhaozhao, aren't you supposed to be the most charitable young lady? How can you be so stingy over such a small amount of money now? You put on such a kind act when you were sponsoring me before. Now your true colors are finally showing. He deliberately raised his voice. See, your so-called kindness was all just an act. Wang Li chimed in immediately. Exactly, what's the big deal about asking for 500,000, the fact that we're willing to spend your money is doing you a favor. Shen Shua's specialty is turning the tables, accusing me of being heartless and controlling. In my past life, I was constantly gaslit by him. With a cold laugh, I pressed the call button by the bed. Security, get this trash out of my sight. Shen Shua's face changed dramatically. How dare you? Smack, I backhanded him across the face. You're nothing but a dog my family keeps. Wang Li shrieked and lunged at me. I grabbed the crystal ashtray from the nightstand and hurled it. Pei Zhaozhao, Shen Shua clutched his swollen cheek. Just you wait, I'm going straight to your father. Too bad for him, my father wasn't home. No one was there to back him up at breakfast. Shen Shua and Wang Li swaggered over and sat down right across from me. I glanced at the plates in front of them and sneered. Since when are servants allowed to eat at the same table as their master? With that, I picked up Shen Shua's plate and dumped its contents straight into the dog bowl at my feet. Here you go, Goldie, a treat for you. Pei Zhaozhao, Shen Shua trembled with rage. Just you wait, I'm going to what? I elegantly wiped my hands. Going to tattle. Don't forget, the food you eat and the roof over your head are all provided by my Pei family. On the way to school, I deliberately had the driver wait at the gate a little longer, just as expected. Shen Shua caught up with Wang Li in tow. Pei Zhaozhao, he gripped the car window, the bruises from last night still visible on his face. This is your last chance. Get on your knees and apologize to me now, and I'll forgive you. I rolled down the window and flashed him a sweet smile. All right, come a little closer. Just as he smugly leaned in close, my expression suddenly shifted. Drive. The driver floored the gas, and the car shot forward. In the rearview mirror, Shen Shua was sent tumbling to the ground. Miss, shall we wait? The driver asked, struggling to hold back a laugh. What are you waiting for? Let him get it through his head. Who's really in charge here? For just after getting out of the car, Shen Shua and Wang Li chased after me to the school in a taxi. The two of them rushed up to me, completely out of breath. Pei Zhaozhao, I'll be magnanimous and forgive you this time. Shen Shua adjusted his collar with a condescending look. From now on, only I can ride in my family's car. Someone of your status should take a taxi. You can put the fare on my tab. Wang Li covered her mouth, snickering beside him. Exactly, the daughter of a housekeeper, putting on airs like some young lady. I watched the despicable pair coldly, a wave of disgust washing over me. These are all the bad habits I spoiled into him in my past life. Shen Shua said he didn't want his classmates to know he was living under someone else's roof, and begged me to help conceal his true circumstances. Like a fool, I agreed, even going so far as to let him take on my own identity. In the end, he grew more and more outrageous, to the point where even Wang Li, the housekeeper's daughter, dared to walk all over me. Of all people, I, the true daughter of the Pei family, ended up being known as the housekeeper's child. With a cold sneer, I pulled out my phone. Young Master Shen, would you like me to show the class the video of you visiting my house in worn-out shoes 3 years ago? Shen Shua's face instantly drained of color. It's fake. It's all photoshopped. Wang Li shrieked in Shen Shua's defense. Exactly. Shen Shua's lackey, Li Chong, immediately chimed in. Pei Zhaozhao, have you lost your mind? The Shen family owns mines. I scoffed. Mines? You mean the charity case my family throws scraps to? A few girls began whispering among themselves. Has Pei Zhaozhao been reading too many romance novels? Seriously, she's always daydreaming about being a rich heiress. Young Master Shen has been so good to her, and this is how she repays him. The class beauty, Lin Yuan, went even further with her mockery. Has someone been watching too many bossy CEO falls in love with me dramas? Do you really think you're some kind of damsel in distress? Shen Shua suddenly spoke up. Pei Zhaozhao, I know you've always had a crush on me, but that's no reason to slander me like this. The crowd erupted in an uproar, and everyone looked at me as if I were a lunatic. Wang Li smugly linked arms with Shen Shua. Don't be upset, young Master Shen, we all know the truth. Just then, The head teacher arrived. What's all this racket, Pei Zhao Zhao? Are you causing trouble again? Shen Shua immediately put on a wounded expression. Director Wang, I think Zhao Zhao might have misunderstood me. What kind of misunderstanding requires making a scene at the school gate? Director Wang just pointed at me without even hearing the facts. He ordered me to write a 10,000-word self-criticism and clean the entire auditorium. Director, aren't you even going to ask what happened? I clenched my fists. Is that even a question? Young Master Shen is the heir to the Pei group. Why would he frame the daughter of a mere maid? The surrounding classmates burst into raucous laughter. Wang Li seized the moment to pour fuel on the fire. Principal, she actually dares to try and slander young Master Shen. Get out and write your self-criticism this instant. One more word of backtalk and you'll get a formal demerit on your record. Shen Shua stood behind the principal, flashing me a triumphant smile and mouthing the words silently. Serves you right. I gave a cold smirk, turned around, and walked back to the classroom. Let them gloat for now. Once my dad gets here, we'll see if they still dare to act so cocky. Soon enough, my father provided the answer to that question. 5. At the library donation ceremony this afternoon, my father attended the event as a member of the school board. My father put his arm around Shen Shua's shoulders and said with a smile, "Please look after this boy at school." The principal immediately flattered, "You're too kind. Mr. Shen Shua is an outstanding student, both in character and academics. He's a model student at our school." Exactly. The head teacher chimed in quickly. Not only are Shen's grades excellent, but his organizational skills are also outstanding. My father nodded in satisfaction. This young man is truly exceptional. Shen Shua feigned humility, saying, "It's all thanks to the teacher's guidance." I clutched the rag tightly, watching them chat and laugh. The principal and the dean were falling over themselves to please Shen Shua, while I, their own daughter, was left on the sidelines like I was invisible. Just as I was bent over, scrubbing the floor, Dean Wang deliberately walked up to me and kicked over my bucket. Splash! The filthy water drenched me from head to toe, soaking my school uniform instantly. Can't even focus on a simple chore, Dean Wang shrieked. Just as I thought, a wild, uncouth girl with no upbringing. Shen Shua stood to the side, a smug smile curling at the corner of his mouth. Oh my! Isn't this the fake heiress? The girls from the class gathered around, taunting her. I heard she's been impersonating the young lady of the Pei family. How shameless. Young Master Shen is the true heir. Look at her pathetic state. Serves her right, Wang Li said in a snide tone. Some people just can't accept their place. What's wrong with admitting you're the housekeeper's daughter? It's not like we'd make fun of you. Ha ha ha. A wave of mocking laughter rippled through the crowd. I looked up at my father, but he acted as if he hadn't seen me and continued chatting and laughing with the principal. I don't understand why my dad would treat me this way. 6. When I got home, my dad called me into his study. Zhao Zhao, he sighed, "You were so thoughtless at school today." I clenched my fists. "Dad, it was Shen Shua who bullied me." "I know you're upset," he cut me off, wearing a pained expression, "but you have to understand Shen Shua. That child lost his parents when he was young. How pitiful is that? Our Pei family is wealthy and influential. What's the harm in letting him have his way? But look how outstanding he is." My dad's eyes lit up, and even the principal praised him today. "You should learn from him and stop acting like a spoiled princess all the time." I bit my lip hard. It was the same in my past life. My dad always took Shen Shua's side. "Zhao Zhao, you know you're always my favorite, but Shen Shua is so sensitive. We have to be considerate of his feelings." "Okay." With that, he patted my shoulder affectionately. "Go apologize to Shen Shua, and we can put this behind us." Shen Shua leaned against the study door, a smug smile on his face. "Zhao Zhao, it's good that you know when you're wrong." I shot to my feet. "In your dreams." Slap. My dad suddenly slapped me across the face. "How dare you speak to Shen Shua like that?" I covered my cheek, staring at my father in disbelief. Shen Shua said with feigned concern, "Uncle Shen, please don't be angry. Zhao Zhao is still young and doesn't know any better. Look at how sensible Shen Shua is." My father yelled, pointing a finger in my face. "Apologize right now." Shen Shua stood behind my father, silently mouthing the words to me. "Serves you right." I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth, let out a cold laugh, and turned to leave. "I need to call my mom." 7. The phone was picked up after just 2 rings. "Zhao Zhao." Mom's gentle voice carried a hint of exhaustion. "It's so late. What's wrong, Mom?" I choked up before I could even finish my sentence. "Don't cry, sweetheart." Mom's voice immediately tensed up. "Tell me, who's been mean to you?" I fought back tears. "It's nothing. I just miss you." "Nonsense." Mom cut in sharply. "What happened to your face? Why is it swollen?" I bit my lip and said nothing. "I'll book a flight home right away. If they dare lay a finger on my daughter, they'll regret it." "Mom, don't panic. I want to find out first why Dad is so biased towards Shinshua. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Alright, Mom finally relented. I'll send old Joe and some men back to help you. Remember, contact me immediately if anything happens. Clutching my phone, the tragedy from my past life suddenly flashed through my mind. My mother was in a terrible car accident on her way to the airport. With her gone, I became a defenseless weed in the Pei family, with no mother to shield me. Shinshua bullied me relentlessly, and my father only grew more partial towards him in the end. I was thrown out of my home and forced into selling myself at nightclubs. I clenched my phone tightly. In this life, I will never let the tragedy repeat itself. My mother must live, and as for Shinshua, I will make him taste a living hell. 8 At the charity gala, Shinshua made a dazzling entrance in his designer suit, the gold watch on his wrist glinting brilliantly. Well, if it isn't the Pei family's precious young lady. He spun around. What do you think? Uncle Shen just bought me this new outfit. Wang Li clung to his arm and cackled. Young Master Shen is the pillar of the Pei family now. Some people will have to rely on him for their keep from now on. I gave them a cold glance. No amount of expensive clothes can hide the cheapness in your bones. Shinshua's face fell. Then he plastered on a fake smile. Zhao Zhao, I know you're jealous, but it's fine. He patted my shoulder with feigned generosity. When you get kicked out, I'll be charitable and give you a dishwashing job. Exactly, Wang Li chimed in. Young Master Shen is so kind. I stared at the watch on Shinshua's wrist. It was the birthday gift my grandfather had given to my mother. It seems my father gave even this to him. I found it bitterly amusing. A benefactor is just a benefactor. They can't even tell who's really in charge in this family. The Pei group was built from the ground up by my grandfather. That's why it's called the Pei group, not the Shin group. My father is merely a live-in son-in-law. 9 Shinshua was floating on a cloud of flattery, his smugness practically oozing from his face. Swirling his champagne glass, he deliberately raised his voice. From now on, I'll be running the company. It would be wise for some people to learn their place sooner rather than later. The surrounding young socialites immediately chimed in. Young Master Shen is so talented and promising. The Pei family is truly blessed to have an heir like you. I watched these sycophantic faces with cold eyes, when I suddenly noticed Wang Li was dressed particularly provocatively tonight. A low-cut miniskirt paired with fishnet stockings. She looked just like a streetwalker. Well, if it isn't young Master Shen's little secretary. Young Master Li eyed Wang Li with ill intent. Dressed so scantily. Are you here to audition for the top spot at the nightclub? Hearing this humiliation, Wang Li's eyes instantly welled up with tears. She instinctively grabbed Shinshua's sleeve. Young Master Shen, but Shinshua shook off her hand with disdain. The way you're dressed is indeed disgraceful. You're embarrassing me. Wang Li felt as if struck by lightning, tears instantly streaming down her face. But you're the one who told me to wear this dress. You said you liked me like this. Nonsense. Shinshua cut in sharply. Why on earth would I let you wear such cheap trash? A wave of mocking laughter rippled through the crowd. Wang Li's face flushed crimson, then drained of all color. Covering her face, she turned and fled. I watched the farce with cold detachment when I suddenly noticed a shift in Shinshua's expression. After a moment's hesitation, he actually ran after her. Interesting. I quietly followed, hiding behind a pillar in the garden colonnade. Shinshua grabbed Wang Li by the fountain. Lily, stop this. Me, making a scene. Wang Li's voice trembled. Young Master Shen, after all I've done for you, this is how you treat me. Shoo. Shinshua nervously glanced around, lowering his voice. That was just an act for the others. If you dress like this, what will people think of me? He reached out to wipe Wang Li's tears, his tone suddenly gentle. Hush now, don't cry. Once I get my hands on the Pei family fortune, you'll be the first one I marry. Wang Li looked up, sniffling. Really? Of course. Shinshua wrapped his arm around her waist. What is Pei Zhao Zhao? Anyway, just a stepping stone for us. I watched the entangled figures of Shinshua and Wang Li behind the garden fountain with a cold gaze, a sneer curling at the corner of my mouth. Turning back to the banquet hall, I feigned panic and said to the few society ladies who were socializing, "Oh no, it seems someone is hurt in the garden." What, Mrs. Li immediately put down her wine glass. Let's go check it out. I led the way anxiously, followed by a crowd of curious guests and several reporters with cameras. They were supposed to cover the charity gala, but now they were about to capture something far more sensational. Right behind the fountain, I pointed in the direction, my voice filled with concern. The group hurried over, only to find, Wang Li's scream pierced the night air. Shinshua whirled around, his face instantly draining of color. On the bench behind the fountain, Wang Li was slumped, her clothes in disarray and her skirt hiked up to her waist, while Shinshua's pants were still around his ankles. The two of them were exposed in utter humiliation before the crowd. Camera flashes went off in a frenzy as reporters excitedly snapped their shutters. Isn't that the Shin heir from the Pei family? Someone exclaimed, my God, to do such a thing at a charity gala. Who is that woman? Shin Shua fumbled frantically to pull up his pants, while Wang Li covered her face and tried to burrow into the bushes. But the reporters had already captured plenty of shots. I stood at the back of the crowd, smiling as I watched their disgraceful display. Shin Shua suddenly looked up, his eyes meeting mine and instantly blazing with fury. Pei Zhaozhao, you. I blinked innocently. I was just worried someone might be hurt. I never expected it to be you too. How could you carry on like that in a place like this? The surrounding whispers grew louder, and Shin Shua's face turned from pale to ashen, finally flushing a deep, mottled purple. Young Master Shin is certainly unburdened by trivialities, Mrs. Li sneered. He has completely humiliated the Pei family. Shin Shua could bear it no longer. Grabbing Wang Li, he fled in disgrace, a chorus of mocking laughter rising and falling in his wake. He didn't know that rumors could kill. 10. Early the next morning, Shin Shua kicked my door open, his face ashen as he slammed his phone onto my bed. Pei Zhaozhao, order your media company to delete all of last night's videos immediately, he commanded arrogantly. It's all over the internet. Do you have any idea how much this is affecting me? I leisurely picked up my phone. The top 3 trending searches were all about hashtag Pei family adoptee charity banquet field action and hashtag Shinshua Wangli indecent video. With view counts already surpassing 100 million, they got a pretty clear shot. Didn't they? I chuckled softly as I zoomed in on the video. Look, from this angle, you can even see the birthmark on your backside. Shin Shua trembled with rage. Don't forget you're living off the Pei family's money. Do you think I won't have Uncle Pei cut off your allowance? This media company is mine. I'll post whatever I want. Besides, you have no say in the Pei family's affairs. Shin Shua's expression suddenly shifted, forcing a fake smile. Zhao, we're family. After all, just delete the video, and I promise I'll never bully you again. Family, I sneered. You think you're worthy of that title? I immediately dialed the company CEO, Mr. Li. Buy 10 more trending spots. Let the whole world see this wretched couple for who they really are. Pei Zhaozhao. Shin Shua lunged to snatch my phone, but was pinned down firmly by 2 bodyguards. I crouched down and tapped his cheek with my phone. This is only the beginning. It wasn't long before my father stormed back in, with Shin Shua in tow, both of them fuming. Pei Zhaozhao. My father slammed his hand on the coffee table. Take that trending topic down immediately. Shin Shua is going to take over the Pei group. His reputation is ruined. I took a leisurely sip of my tea. Father, have you forgotten? Starlight Media was a birthday gift from Grandpa. It's none of your business. Seeing how firm I was, he was so angry he raised his hand to hit me. You ungrateful girl. The moment his hand rose, 2 bodyguards in black immediately stepped in front of me. These are the men my mother specifically arranged to protect me, Mr. Shin, the bodyguard said coldly. Please show some restraint. Shin Shua suddenly rushed forward. Pei Zhaozhao, don't you dare go too far. Seizing the moment, I stepped forward and slapped Shin Shua hard across the face with a sharp crack, clutching his cheek. Shin Shua stared at me in disbelief. Pei Zhaozhao, how dare you hit me? My father immediately lunged forward like a guard dog. Have you lost your mind? Shin Shua is the heir to the Pei group now. Who do you think you are? Laying a hand on him, I let out a cold laugh. Father, have you forgotten? I am your biological daughter. He is nothing but an outsider. Bullshit. Shin Shua is 100 times more accomplished than you. Just look at yourself, loafing around all day. Are you even fit to be called the eldest daughter of the Pei family, Dad? I said, staring straight into his eyes, my voice icy. The only reason I'm still calling you Dad is out of respect for the blood we share. I took a step closer to him. If you keep refusing to see reason, don't blame me for cutting all ties. My father's face turned ashen, his hand trembling as he pointed at me. You, Pei Zhaozhao, how dare you speak to Uncle Pei like that? I slapped him again without a second thought. Who gave you the right to speak here? 11. That night, I slept very restlessly, with scenes from my past life flashing through my dreams. My mother's cold, lifeless body. Shin Shua stood on the steps, watching with a cold sneer as I was thrown out of the Pei family. I was surrounded and beaten by thugs in a dimly lit alley, the blood gushing from between my legs during the miscarriage. No, I jolted awake, my pajamas soaked with cold sweat. Something's wrong. This is all wrong. My father, who's always cared so much about appearances, how could he treat a student he's sponsoring better than his own daughter, even to the point of hitting me in public? Unless, of course, there's something going on between them. The sky outside was just beginning to lighten. I picked up my phone and dialed a number. Uncle Zhou, I need you to look into something for me. Go ahead, miss, the voice on the other end belonged to my mother's most trusted confidant. Find out everything about Shinshua's connections before he came to our house. I need to know, specifically, how he and my father met around noon. Uncle Chen sent over the first batch of information. Shinshua, 18 years old, originally from H City. His father, Shin Jiming, jumped to his death 5 years ago due to gambling debts. His mother, Li Mei, passed away from illness 3 years ago. Wait, I stared at Mrs. Shin's photo, and my fingers suddenly began to tremble. The eyes and brows of this woman were exactly the same as the woman in that old photo my father treasured in his study. I immediately called back, Uncle Zhou, I need detailed information on Shinshua's mother, the sooner the better. During class in the afternoon, I received an encrypted message. It's confirmed, Shin's mother, Li Mei, was President Pei's college sweetheart. I stared at my phone screen, and suddenly, everything clicked. No wonder my dad always looks at Shinshua with such guilt in his eyes. No wonder he's always defending that scholarship student. Because my dad thinks Shinshua is his son. 12. After school, Shinshua blocked my path. Pei Zhaozhao, you think hiring a few bodyguards makes you safe? A bastard who relies on my mother's charity to stay in school. How dare you swagger around in front of me? Shinshua's pupils contracted sharply. You know what? I raised my voice on purpose. That your mom was my dad's first love, that you're my dad's bastard son, or maybe that your deadbeat gambler of a father didn't jump. My dad had him taken out. Shinshua trembled from head to toe, as if struck by lightning. What? Surprised, I sneered. How long did you think you could hide your filthy little secrets? Pei Zhaozhao, Shinshua growled through gritted teeth. You're asking for death. You're the one who's asking for it. I grabbed his collar violently. A bastard who can't see the light of day, wormed your way into my family by playing the victim, and now you have the nerve to swagger around. A crowd of curious students had already gathered around. Did you hear? Shinshua is actually a bastard. Oh my god, that's so disgusting. No wonder he's always bullying Pei Zhaozhao. Humiliated and enraged, Shinshua raised his hand to strike me. I seized his wrist and immediately slapped him across the face. Staggering back from the blow, Shinshua retreated as I closed in. What's the matter? I taunted. Not so good at pretending now, are you? Keep up the act. Pei Zhaozhao, Shinshua shrieked hysterically. Just you wait, I'm going to find Uncle Shin right now. Go on then. I stepped aside with a cold laugh. Perfect timing for my mother to see just what a big bastard her husband has been raising on the side. Shinshua's face instantly drained of color. He clearly hadn't expected me to be this unyielding. You think that's the end of it? I pulled out my phone and waved it. I've recorded our entire conversation. Soon, the whole school, the entire internet, will know exactly who you really are. You can't do this. Shinshua finally panicked. Can't I? I sneered. Shinshua, you'll soon find out why the flowers are so red. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving Shinshua standing there as our classmates pointed and whispered. Just as I stepped out of the school gate, my phone rang. A message from Uncle Chen. Miss, we've uncovered a critical lead. The master is secretly transferring the Pei family's assets. I narrowed my eyes and replied, keep watching and gather evidence. Also, what time is my mother's flight arriving? 3 in the afternoon, as you instructed. I've dispatched double the security detail to meet her. It was already 6 in the evening, and there was still no sign of my mother. 13. My phone suddenly vibrated. It was a call from the head of security. Miss, there's been an accident. Madam's car was rear-ended by a truck on the highway. She's being taken to the hospital now. I hung up and rushed straight to the hospital. The moment I pushed open the hospital room door and saw my mother covered in tubes, my tears instantly welled up. Mom, I rushed to her bedside. At that moment, the hospital room door was flung open. Shinshua swaggered in, with my father following behind him. Oh my, what has happened to Mrs. Pei? Shinshua said with feigned concern. What a terrible misfortune. My father stood to the side, his gaze as cold and distant as a stranger's. Get out, I snapped, my voice sharp. Zhaozhao, mind your tone. My father frowned. Shinshua came here specifically to see your mother. A visit, I sneered. More like you came to see if my mother is dead yet. Right. Shinshua feigned distress. Zhaozhao, how could you think of me that way? I came as soon as I heard about your mother's accident. Stop pretending. I shot to my feet. Did you arrange this accident? Shinshua's face fell for a moment before he resumed his hypocritical expression. Where's your proof? Without evidence, it's just slander. Enough. My father suddenly roared. Pei Zhaozhao, no one wanted to see what happened to your mother, but that's no excuse for you to lose your mind. Looking at this man who was once my closest kin, my heart felt as if it were being sliced open. Dad, do you really hate Mom that much, enough to want her dead? My father's eyes darted away. Nonsense. It was just an accident, I sneered coldly. I got my hands on your paternity test results. Shen Shua suddenly burst into laughter. Pei Zhao Zhao, you think you can turn the tables like this? How naive. Once you're all dead, the Pei group will be mine. You're going to kill me and my mother. My father avoided my gaze, his voice icy. Zhao Zhao, don't blame me. Shen Shua is my biological son. The Pei group was always meant to be his. What about me? My voice trembled. What are mom and I to you? Disgust flashed across my father's face. If her father hadn't used his power to force my hand back then, I would have married Li Mei long ago. Shen Shua wouldn't have suffered outside all these years either. 14. I couldn't believe my ears. So, you've been taking revenge on us all these years. That's right. Seeing you mother and daughter groveling before me with gratitude. My father's face twisted with savage delight. How satisfying. Shen Shua threw an arm around my father's shoulder, gloating. Dad, don't waste your breath on her. Tell the doctors to stop treating this bitch. When old man Pei arrives, he'll just think his daughter died from her illness. As for Pei Zhao Zhao, let her be so overcome with grief that she falls from the building. How dare you? I was trembling all over. You think I won't? Watch me. Shen Shua sneered as he pressed the call button. Nurse, the patient in bed 3 is ready to have the tube removed at that very moment. The hospital room door swung open again. A commanding voice rang out. Let's see who dares to lay a finger on my daughter and granddaughter. Everyone turned in shock. Grandfather stood in the doorway flanked by a group of bodyguards, and beside him, perfectly unharmed, was the mother who was supposed to be dead. Mom, how was my acting? Mom smiled gently. Brilliant. More than enough to fool those 2 idiots. Shen Shua's face turned deathly pale. No, impossible. I saw it with my own eyes. Saw what? Grandpa sneered. Saw the truck you arranged crash into that car. That car was carrying a body double. Shen Shua, we've had all the evidence of your and your father's scheme for a long time. My father staggered back. Dad, please, let me explain. Silence, grandfather roared. From this day forward, you are banished from the Pei family. You can both look forward to a prison cell. Police officers stormed into the hospital room and pinned Shen Shua and my father to the floor. Shen Shua struggled frantically. No, the Pei group is mine. I'm the rightful heir. Mom walked up to my dad and slapped him across the face. This is payback for 20 years of lies. You fool. You've been deceived by Li Mei for 20 years. Shen Shua's real father is that gambling, abusive man. Li Mei fabricated this lie on her deathbed to secure a future for her son. Impossible. My father screamed hysterically, his face a mess of snot and tears. DNA doesn't lie. Mom threw down a paternity test report. Your mother tricked Shen Qingjun into adopting you, all just so her son could live a good life. My dad staggered and fell to his knees, suddenly grabbing my mom's ankle. Honey, I was wrong. It was all this bastard's fault for tricking me. Give me another chance. Save it. Mom kicked him away. Go repent in prison. The moment Shen Qingjun heard he was going to be sentenced, he completely lost it. He violently shoved Shen Shua down the stairs, screaming hysterically, "This is all your fault, you bastard. I'll kill you." Shen Shua tumbled heavily down the stairs and lost consciousness on the spot. Doctors later diagnosed him as being in a vegetative state, condemned to spend the rest of his life bedridden, unable to so much as lift a finger. To make matters worse, no one was willing to take care of him. It's said that his back festered and oozed pus from lying in bed for so long, yet there wasn't even anyone to turn him over. 3 months later, the court delivered its verdict. Shen Qingjun was sentenced to life imprisonment for attempted murder and embezzlement. My mother and I stood on the courthouse steps as Grandpa was beckoning the reporters over for photos. Pei Zhao Zhao, Wang Li shrieked, "Give Master Shen back to me." I turned to look and saw a disheveled woman being pinned firmly to the ground by bodyguards. She struggled desperately, her grimy hair revealing a face covered in festering sores. It took me several seconds of careful scrutiny to realize, with a shock, that this was actually Wang Li, the once haughty daughter of the nanny. Give Master Shen back to me, she shrieked, her nails scraping bloody trails on the ground. This is all your fault. He promised he would give me a good life. Mother frowned in disgust. Isn't that the ungrateful little maid? What on earth has happened to her? I crouched down, looking closely at her festering cheek and clouded eyes. According to the bodyguard, ever since Shen Shua became a vegetable, she went to the lowest tier nightclubs to raise money for his medical bills. She ended up catching a slew of diseases, and now even the cheapest Johns think she's filthy. Wang Li, I whispered in her ear, did you know? The hospital just called. Shen Shua's organs are beginning to fail. I paused deliberately. If you go now, you might just make it in time to see him one last time. You're lying. She suddenly began to struggle violently, pus and blood oozing from the festering sores on her face. Master Shen promised to marry me. He will get better. Wang Li let out an inhuman howl, still screaming as the security guards dragged her away. He said he would marry me. Mother gently took my hand. Let's go home. Later, my mother asked me why I had thought to get a fake paternity test. I said to my mom with a smile, to crush your enemy, destroy their spirit, end of story. Story 2. For the spring festival trip home, Xia Sun and I managed to snag the last 2 soft sleeper tickets, but when we boarded the train, Xia Sun's childhood friend, who had only gotten a standing room ticket, had already taken my bunk. She turned to me with a pleading look. Sis, could you let me have your bunk? I can't stand for 10 hours. I placed a hand on my rounded belly and refused. No, I'm pregnant. Little Qingmei looked at Xia Sun with a hurt expression. Xia Sun threw my luggage outside. It's just a pregnancy. Don't be so delicate. I picked up my luggage, turned, and left the train in silence. Xia Sun thought I was curled up in some corner of the train, having a nice, comfortable sleep. When the train reached its final stop, he searched the entire carriage but couldn't find a trace of me. Seeing me frozen in place, Xia Sun impatiently threw the luggage I had just managed to settle back onto the ground. Stop making a fuss, Lin Wan. It's just 10 hours standing. It's not that long. Can't you handle a little hardship? I stared at him in disbelief, pointing to my swollen belly. Don't you realize I'm pregnant? With the spring festival crowds this heavy, you expect me to stand for 10 hours, Xia Sun frowned. It's just a pregnancy. Don't be so dramatic. Here's an idea. While there are still empty seats, just go sit in one. When the passenger whose seat it is arrives, just tell them you couldn't get a seat reservation and ask them to give it up. They'll definitely do it out of consideration for you being pregnant. I was even more stunned after hearing that. Was he trying to get me to emotionally blackmail people? Giving up your seat for a pregnant woman on the subway or bus is one thing, but on a high-speed train, everyone paid hundreds for their ticket, and spring festival tickets are notoriously hard to get. Who would be willing? I refused immediately. No way, I'd be mortified. Seeing my refusal, Xia Sun grew even more irritated. You're about to be a mother and still so concerned with pride. Fine, you can stand then. I pointed at Song Yun. Why should I? I was the one who got the tickets. Why doesn't she have to stand? Song Yun shot Xia Sun a wounded look and hid behind him. Xia Sun immediately shielded Song Yun behind him. Enough, Lin Wan, stop making a scene. You were the one who snagged the ticket, but I'm the one who paid for it. I can give it to whomever I please. I froze. It was true. Xia Sun had paid for the train ticket because I had no money. Ever since I married him, I gave up my career at his urging and became a full-time housewife, devoting myself solely to his care. Seeing my silence, Xia Sun sighed, his voice softening. Song Yun is a dance student. Standing for too long is bad for her legs. She worked so hard to get into the Beijing Dance Academy. You wouldn't want anything to happen to her legs, would you? I clutched the suitcase handle until my knuckles turned white, my eyes rimmed red. If you feel so sorry for her, why don't you swap places with her? Xia Sun's face darkened instantly. He pointed at his own leg. You know perfectly well my leg is injured. How could I possibly swap? I looked at the bandage wrapped around Xia Sun's leg, a souvenir from the fight he got into to chase off the thugs who were bullying Song Yun, but he was outnumbered. In the end, a baseball bat found his leg. There I was, heavily pregnant, running myself ragged at the hospital, taking care of him for a whole month. Song Yun bit her lip, her face a picture of distress. Brother Xia, please don't argue with my sister. It's all my fault for being too slow to get a sleeper berth. I'll just go stand outside. As Song Yun spoke, she made to leave, but Xia Sun grabbed her arm and pulled her back. Don't go. Xia Sun looked at her with urgent concern. It's the spring festival rush. The crowds are huge. What if you go out there and get picked on again? But what about you, sis? Song Yun looked at me with a troubled expression. Xia Sun seemed to have lost all patience. He raised his voice and yelled at me. Lin Wan, can you be a little more sensible? I didn't understand. These were tickets I had fought hard to get, and I was pregnant. For heaven's sake, who was the one being unreasonable? Here's an idea, sis, Song Yin suddenly said. How about we take turns? There are 10 stops on the way back to Brother He's place. You take the sleeper for one stop, and I'll take it for the next. What do you think? Xia Sun was a bit displeased, but this was the best solution. He asked, well, Yun Yun has already backed down, so you should stop making a fuss too. I didn't want to go home for the new year with all this emotional baggage. Just getting into the station had nearly drained all my energy, so I could only nod silently in agreement. I was just about to ask who should stand first when Xia Sun pushed me out. You go first for this stop, he said. Your luggage is already down. It would be inconvenient to put it back up. Carrying my luggage, I walked out alone in silence. By then, all the seats in the corridor outside the sleeper compartments were already taken. Everyone was exhausted from the long journey. Not wanting to use my pregnancy to guilt trip anyone, I found a corner for myself, carefully cradling my belly as I sat on my suitcase. The train during the spring festival rush was packed, with many passengers who had only managed to get standing room only tickets. The train car was filled with a mix of smells, instant noodles, sweat, and foot odor, covering my nose. I couldn't stop myself from retching. I was sitting in the corner, and right in front of me was a young couple. They still seemed to be in the honeymoon phase. The guy even paid extra to swap seats with another passenger so he could sit next to his girlfriend. They sat there hand in hand, leaning against each other, radiating a sweetness that's hard to put into words. It reminded me of Sun Xia and me back in the day. Sun Xia and I were high school classmates. Over those 3 years, a vague affection blossomed between us. Right after the college entrance exams, he confessed his feelings to me, and I said yes, but our joy was short-lived. We soon found out we'd be attending universities in different cities, separated by 1,000 miles. I can't handle a long-distance relationship. All my friends who've tried it ended up breaking up before long. No matter how sweet it starts, it always seems to end in cheating or a cold, silent breakup. I felt like Xia Sun and I were headed down the same path, so I broke up with him, but Xia Sun absolutely refused to accept it. He promised me that even long distance, he would stick it out to the very end. I didn't believe him. In a moment of resolve, I deleted all his contact information. Yet, a week into the new semester, I saw Xia Sun at school, the very person who should have been 1,000 miles away from me. It was the dead of winter, yet he wore only a thin black jacket. His fair cheeks were flushed pink from the cold, and unmelted snowflakes still clung to his dark eyebrows and lashes. I stood frozen in place, unable to believe he was actually here. Xia Sun ran up and pulled me into a tight embrace, his voice trembling. "I'm sorry, Awan. The start of term has been so hectic. I only just managed to find the time to come see you." My voice was hoarse. "What are you doing here?" He smiled, his dark eyes sparkling. "Didn't I tell you? Not even distance can keep us apart." Xia Sun grasped my hand, his tone resolute. "Awan, I promise you, I'll make the long distance work. We can video call every day, and I'll take the high-speed train to see you every month." I didn't say a word. Silently, I slipped my hand into his pocket and quickly pulled out what was inside. When Xia Sun saw the ticket in my hand, his expression changed and he tried to snatch it. But the moment I read the words on it, my eyes instantly welled up with tears. My voice trembled as I asked, "A 10-hour standing ticket? You were willing to do that?" Xia Sun forced a smile. "It's just 10 hours. Think of it as a workout. Besides, all I do at school is eat and sleep. I could use the exercise." I wasn't listening. I rushed forward and threw my arms around him. Xia Sun paused, then gently patted my head. "What's wrong, Awan?" Tears streamed down my face, my voice choked with emotion. "Xia Sun, you're so infuriating. I was just about ready to give up on this relationship." Hearing this, Xia Sun's voice was filled with unrestrained joy and excitement. He grasped my shoulders and asked, "So, Awan, does that mean you're agreeing not to break up?" I nodded, then after a moment's thought added, "How about this? From now on, we'll take turns visiting each other every month. You'll come to me this month, and I'll go to you next month." "No way," Xia Sun refused firmly. "How could I bear to let you stand for 10 hours, next stop approaching." The train's announcement snapped me out of my reverie. I looked up. The next station was almost here. A bitter smile touched my lips. How could the boy who once couldn't bear the thought of me taking a 10-hour high-speed train ride now make his heavily pregnant wife stand for 10 hours leaning on my aching back? I struggled to rise from the suitcase and made my way toward the sleeper berth, but as I reached the door and was about to push it open, I heard passionate, intimate sounds coming from within. "Xie Ji." My face went pale as I peered sharply through the window. At some point, Song Yin had made her way onto Xia Sun's bed. She wrapped her arms around his neck and pressed her lips to his. Xia Sun didn't respond, but he didn't refuse her either, simply letting her actions unfold. Finally, he could hold back no longer. He gripped her waist, pressed her down onto the bed, and met her kiss with fervent intensity. Song Yun, who had been lost in the moment with her eyes closed, opened them and looked straight at me, her gaze brimming with defiance. My stomach churned violently, and I rushed into the restroom, clutching my chest as I retched and heaved. After leaving the restroom, I watched the passengers coming and going in small groups. Feeling utterly lost, I desperately wanted to leave, but I had no idea where to go. The world is so vast, yet it feels like there's no place left for me. Just then, my phone rang. I opened it and saw a WeChat message from my mom. "Sweetie, are you coming home for New Year's? Your dad and I miss you so much. We bought all your favorite foods and are just waiting for you to come home for the holidays." Reading this, the composure I'd struggled to maintain instantly shattered. My eyes welled up with tears, and I bit down hard on my lower lip to keep myself from crying out loud. I typed a reply, "Mom, wait for me. I'm coming home for New Year's this year." I went to the restroom, splashed some water on my face, and then returned to the sleeper car as if nothing had happened. The moment he saw me, Siasun's eyes darted away guiltily before he tried to play it cool and blame me. "You actually took Yunyun seriously when she offered to swap with you. I don't know how getting pregnant made you so delicate. Back in university, no matter how much I tried to talk you out of it, you wouldn't listen. You insisted on taking a 10-hour high-speed train ride to see me, standing the whole way. How come you can't stand now?" I sat silently on the bed, ignoring him. Song Yin stood up. "Brother Xia, don't be like that. Sister Wanwan is pregnant. It's my turn now. I'll go stand outside." Seeing Song Yin about to leave, Xia quickly grabbed her arm. "Go where? Are you crazy? This sleeper berth is plenty big enough for two. Why don't you both just sit here together?" I couldn't help but find it ridiculous. He knew perfectly well that two people could fit on the sleeper berth, yet he insisted on forcing me to stand outside. The memory of the scene I'd just witnessed outside the carriage made my stomach churn again. I covered my mouth, retching uncontrollably, feeling so nauseous I nearly vomited. Seeing this, Xia grew flustered. He quickly stood up and began rubbing my back. "Wan, are you alright?" Song Yin watched with concern from the side. "Sister Wanwan, when I visited you at home, your morning sickness wasn't this severe. Why did it start as soon as you got on the train? Is the seat uncomfortable? Maybe I should be the one to stand outside instead." At those words, Siasun's flustered expression instantly twisted into one of disgust, his eyes brimming with impatience. "Lin Wan, haven't you caused enough trouble? You've only been standing for an hour and you're already putting on this frail act. You just want Yunyun to be the one standing outside, don't you? I never realized how manipulative you could be. Yunyun and I grew up together, even though we're not related by blood. I've always treated her like a real sister. It's only right that I look out for her. Can't you be a little more understanding?" I bit down hard on my lower lip, trying to suppress the nausea churning in my stomach. I don't understand how the person who once loved me so deeply, who would travel 1,000 miles every month just to see me, could have become like this. I didn't want to respond, afraid I'd break down and cry like a fool. "I'm going to get some hot water." I didn't want to hear Siasun's accusations anymore, and I was terrified of breaking down and making a scene in front of all these people. I grabbed my cup and hurried away. I went to the water room to fill my cup. The billowing steam made my eyes sting and turn red. Cup now full, I screwed the cap on and turned to leave, only to be shoved hard from behind the moment I turned around. The poorly screwed-on lid of my water bottle fell off, splashing scalding hot water all over me. I let out a pained scream as my left hand instantly turned red and swollen from the burn. Looking up, I saw it was Song Yin who had bumped into me. Song Yin covered her mouth in feigned surprise. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Wanwan. I didn't see you there. You're not burned, are you?" I bit my lip, my face pale with pain, ignoring her insincere apology. I headed for the bathroom to run cold water over the burn. Song Yin's hand clamped down on my burned one like a vice. Her smile was sweet, but her eyes held a venomous glint. "Going somewhere? Sis, let me help you. Let go of me." I struggled with all my might, but I couldn't break free. Song Yin looked delicate, but years of dance had given her arms lean, wiry muscle. Exhausted from the day and weakened by my pregnancy, I was no match for her. Her freshly done nails dug cruelly into my scalded skin as she leaned in close to my ear and whispered, "You saw what happened between me and Brother Xia in the car, didn't you? I meant for you to see. If you know what's good for you, you'll get rid of that baby, divorce Xia, and stop clinging to him like some pathetic leech." She took a step back, her face once again the picture of innocent harmlessness. "Come on, Wanwan, let me take care of that cut for you." I couldn't take it anymore. I shoved her hand away violently. "Get away from me. Don't touch me." But Song Yun, who had seemed so strong just moments before, lost her balance and fell backwards, hitting the ground hard. I froze, instinctively moving to help Song Yun up, when a cold voice suddenly cut through the air. "Lin Wan, what are you doing?" I looked up to see Siasun standing at the entrance of the water room, his face dark with anger. I tried to explain, but Siasun wouldn't listen. He hurriedly helped Song Yun to her feet, his eyes filled with concern. "Yun, are you alright?" Tears welled in Song Yun's eyes as she shook her head gently. "I'm fine, Brother Xia." Siasun looked up, glaring at me with fury. "Lin Wan, what do you think you're doing? I pointed at my scalded, reddened arm. She's the one who burned me with boiling water first, and she deliberately squeezed the wound to stop me from leaving. That's enough, Lin Wan. Xia cut me off impatiently. After you left, Yun was worried about you, a pregnant woman, finding it difficult to move around in the crowded water room, so she went to check on you. You've been sulking over that seed issue, and now you're deliberately scalding your own arm to frame Yun. How can you be so despicable? Please, don't say any more, Brother Xia. Song Yun's eyes were rimmed red as she pitifully lowered her gaze. It really was my carelessness that caused sister to spill the hot water on herself. Yun, don't you defend her. Xia looked at me with disgust. Let me take you back to the carriage first. Change your clothes. Look, you're all wet, don't catch a cold. Xia helped Song Yun turn to leave, and Song Yun looked back at me with a provocative glare. Even though I had long known the truth that Xia no longer loved me, my heart still ached as if it were being sliced by a knife. The skin, which was originally red and swollen, had become ulcerated because of Song Yun. I endured the excruciating pain and went to the bathroom to cool it with cold water. As I stepped out of the bathroom, I bumped right into a flight attendant, looking at the wound on my arm with concern. She said, "Ma'am, how did you get hurt? Please wait a moment. I'll have someone come to treat your wound right away." Before long, the flight attendant returned with the train's medical personnel. As they bandaged me, one of them asked, "You look about 5 or 6 months along. Where's your husband? How did you end up here alone in your condition?" My nose stung with tears. I don't have a husband anymore. The medical staff seemed to have more questions, but seeing how distraught I was, they held their tongues. After a quick bandaging, the medical staff said to me, "That's a pretty serious wound. If it's not treated right away, it could get infected and you might run a high fever. How many more stops do you have? If it's too long, you should get off and find a hospital to have it properly dressed." I glanced at the display screen on the train and smiled at the medical worker. "I'm getting off at the next stop." I checked my phone. The next stop was still half an hour away, but I still had some luggage in the sleeper car. I needed to go and retrieve it first. I returned to the sleeper compartment to find Xia comforting a weeping Song Yun. Upon seeing me, Xia snapped angrily, "Lin Wan, look what you've done." My face expressionless, I carefully supported my stomach and bent down to retrieve my luggage from under the berth. Seeing my lack of reaction, Xia grew furious and grabbed my freshly bandaged hand. "Lin Wan, what kind of attitude is this?" A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. Suppressing the pain, I asked icily, "What kind of attitude do you think I should have?" Xia pointed at Song Yun and enunciated each word clearly. "Apologize to Yun." I let out a scornful laugh and forcefully shook off his hand. "Fine." I walked up to Song Yun, with red-rimmed eyes. She looked at me with a pitiful, delicate expression. "Sister Wan, you really don't have to." Smack. Before Song Yun could finish her whiny, manipulative spiel, I cut her off with a sharp slap. The crisp sound of the slap rang out. Song Yun clutched her reddened cheek, staring at me in utter disbelief. I let out a cold laugh and, with my uninjured hand, delivered another hard slap across her other cheek. Just as I was about to strike a third time, Xia seized my wrist in a death grip and shoved me backward with brutal force. I slammed hard into the wall, and my vision went black. Clutching my stomach, a sharp, twisting pain shot through my abdomen, so intense it nearly brought me to my knees. Xia was utterly enraged. He whirled around and shouted at me, "Lin Wan, have you lost your mind?" Song Yun glared at me with pure malice, a stark contrast to the pitiful, delicate image she had projected just moments before. I let out a scornful laugh, clutching my stomach as I slowly rose to my feet. For a moment, I couldn't tell if the pain in my hand, my gut, or my heart was worse. Just then, the sound of the approaching train echoed from outside. I had no more words to waste on these two scumbags. Grabbing my luggage, I prepared to leave. Xia rushed forward and grabbed me. "Stop, where do you think you're going?" Apologized to Yun. I gave a light laugh, then slapped him hard across the face. Under his disbelieving stare, I shook off his hand and left the sleeper car. I got off the train, pushing against the flow of the crowd. Just then, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was a video sent by Song Yun. I clicked it open. It was a video secretly recorded just moments ago. When Xia took Song Yun back to change her clothes in the video, Xia initially had his back turned, but Song Yun suddenly said, "Brother Xia, I can't fasten my bra clasp. Could you help me?" Xia's face flushed. "It wouldn't be proper for me. Let's get your sister-in-law to help you instead." Song Yun's voice was full of grievance. "Brother Xia, have you forgotten how Sister Wan treated me just now?" Xia froze for a moment, then stood up to fasten her bra clasp for her with an expressionless face. I turned off my phone, grabbed my suitcase, and disembarked from the train, moving against the flow of the crowd. Just as I was about to leave, the train began to pull away with a roar, the curtain lifted, and through the window, I saw Song Yin nestled in Xia arms. I don't know if it was my imagination, but in that instant, I seemed to see Xia eyes widen in shock before he frantically shoved Song Yin away, sending her tumbling to the floor. But that's none of my business anymore. I got into the taxi and said flatly, "Driver, we can go." Xia stared blankly at the scenery rushing past the car window. Song Yin held her sore arm, pouting as she complained, "Brother Xia, what was that all about just now?" Xia's voice was strained. I thought I saw Lin Wan outside the car. How did she get out?" A flicker of smugness crossed Song Yan's eyes as she took Xia's hand to comfort him. "Brother Xia, you must be seeing things. Where could sister in law possibly go in her condition? Besides, she's just a housewife who's always asking you for money. With no money, where could she go? She'd end up homeless." Xia's initial anxiety gradually subsided under Song Yan's reassurance. He kept telling himself, "You're right, I must have been mistaken. Lin Wan is just a housewife, with no money of her own and pregnant to boot. Where could she possibly go without me? Alright. Brother Xia, get some rest first." Song Yan led him to the bed and sat him down. "We've still got 7 hours until the final stop." Xia nodded, lay back down on the bed, and went back to sleep. The car pulled up at the gold shop. I went inside, took off the solid gold necklace from around my neck, and handed it to the clerk. "Hello, could you tell me how much I could get for this necklace?" Xia was right. I had no money, just a bit of pocket change. Apart from this gold chain Xia gave me when we got married, I had nothing of value on me. I once thought I would never sell this gold necklace, no matter how hard things got, but now, I looked down, watching the shop assistant melt the chain bit by bit to calculate its worth. The shop assistant tapped on the calculator, then looked up with a smile. "Hello, ma'am, the total weight of this gold chain is 5.2 grams. Based on the current gold price, you can get 3,678 yuan for it." I nodded, "Okay." Looking at the 3,678 yuan in my account, I gave a bitter smile. This was the first time since marrying Xia that I had spent so much of my own money. After quitting my job to become a housewife, Xia would give me 5,000 yuan each month for household expenses, but after deducting utilities and daily costs, plus the fact that I had to buy new work clothes for Xia every month, there was hardly anything left. Yet, every single time, Xia would still scold me for being wasteful with money. I took a deep breath, went to a clothing store first to buy myself a decent outfit, and then picked up some gifts for my parents. It was too late to get a train ticket now, so I booked a flight instead. It was expensive, twice the price of a high-speed rail ticket, more than I would have ever allowed myself to spend before. But now, staring at the flight confirmation on my phone, I made a firm decision and headed straight for the airport. The moment I boarded the plane, I powered off my phone and began to quietly make my plans. Once the New Year celebrations were over, I could finally ask Xia for a divorce. After the plane landed, my parents were already at the airport, having waited for quite some time. It's been 5 years since we last saw each other. Every year, as the holidays approached, I'd say I wanted to go home for the New Year, but Xia would always cut me off impatiently. "What kind of man spends the New Year at his wife's family home? It's a joke waiting to happen. You're my wife now. Stop thinking about running back to your parents' place all the time." "Oh, my dear, you're finally home. How did you get so thin?" My mother's voice trembled as she held back tears, carefully gathering me into her arms. My father's eyes also welled up. He patted my shoulder and said, "It's good to have you back." I bit down hard on my lower lip to keep myself from crying out loud. When Xia and I got married, my parents were completely against it. My mother said to me with deep concern, "Sweetheart, marrying far from home is like a high-stakes gamble. Xiao Xia lives so far away from us, over 2,000 kilometers. What will you do if you ever feel wronged or mistreated?" At the time, I was so blinded by love that I was determined to marry Xia no matter what. "That won't happen, Mom. Xia and I made it through 4 years of long distance in college. He's promised me he'll never let me down in this lifetime. Please, Mom and Dad, give us your blessing. Besides, transportation is so convenient these days. If I ever want to come home, it's just a plane ticket away." With tears in my eyes, I saw how much of their once jet black hair had turned white, and only then did I realize they were no longer young. I am their only daughter, and I was raised with the utmost care and affection from the day I was born. But ever since I married and moved far away, they've been unable to eat or sleep properly, worrying about me day and night, afraid I might be suffering over there. But thankfully, it's not too late. I have returned to their side. I had just gotten home and set my luggage down when my mom came over with her phone and said to me, "Sweetie, is this Xiaoxia in the news? Why is he causing a scene on the train?" Frowning, I took the phone from my mom. Even though his eyes were pixelated in the video, I recognized Xiaosun immediately. In the video, Xiaosun was acting like a madman, frantically shouting at the train attendant, "Where's my wife? What have you done with her? Why can't I find her anywhere in this entire carriage? Who took her? Please, I'm begging you, give her back to me. She's pregnant." By the end of his desperate shouts, Xiaosun could no longer hold back his sobs. Doing the math on the time, Xiaosun should have arrived at the station by now. I read on. Xiaosun had been taken to a nearby police station by officers for causing a disturbance on the train. The video was a bit blurry, but I could still make out Song Yun on the side, frantically trying to intervene. She kept pleading with Xiaosun. "Brother Xia, calm down, Sister Wanwan will be okay." I let out a bitter laugh and handed the phone back to my mom. "It's Xiaosun." My mom panicked instantly. "What's going on, sweetheart? I thought you and Xiaoxia were each going back to your own families this time. How could he make such a scene on the train, demanding to know where you were?" I had originally wanted to keep it from my mom to spare her the worry, but the truth always comes out in the end. Since I've decided on a divorce, I might as well come clean about everything. After calming myself down, I told my parents the whole story from start to finish. My parents were both furious and heartbroken to hear it. With tears in her eyes, my mom scolded me. "Oh, you silly child, why didn't you tell us you were suffering like this sooner?" My dad reassured her. "The kid was just afraid of worrying you." I smiled and said, "It's okay, Mom, it's all in the past now. After the new year, I'll divorce Xiaosun." I turned my phone on, and it instantly went berserk with vibrations, nearly freezing up from the overload. The screen was flooded with messages from Xiaosun. With over 99 missed calls alone, I gave a bitter, ironic smile, my feelings a tangled mess. Xiaosun had called me more times today than in the entire last 5 years combined. The moment I powered on my phone, Xiaosun's call came through immediately. Looks like he'd been dialing nonstop. I answered the call, and Xiaosun's anxious voice came through. "Wanwan, you finally answered. Where are you? The train staff said you got off at the second stop. Where on earth did you go?" I said flatly, "I went home." "Home?" Xiaosun sounded puzzled. "Why did you go home all of a sudden? There's no one there right now. Didn't we agree to stay at my parents' place until early February?" I gave a bitter smile. "Xiaosun, you've misunderstood. When I said home, I didn't mean your place. I meant my home, in Jiang City." A deathly silence fell on the other end of the line. Just as I grew impatient and was about to hang up, Xiaosun finally spoke. His voice was strained. "Why?" I scoffed. "What do you think? Is it about the sleeper birth?" I admit I didn't handle it well. I was only thinking that Song Yun, just a young girl, couldn't stand for that long, so I asked you to give it up for her. But Wanwan, these are just trivial matters. Besides, you hit Song Yun, didn't you? The mark from your slap hasn't even faded from her face yet. How could you just leave without a word?" Seeing that I didn't respond, Xiaosun pressed on. "Wanwan, did you really go home? Are you lying to me? You had no money on you. How did you get back?" I gave a faint smile and sent Xiaosun the receipt from the jewelry store. "Because I sold the gold necklace you gave me." The next second, Xiaosun's voice came through, filled with disbelief. "You actually sold the token of my affection, the gift I gave you, just to get home? Lin Wan, how could you do this?" I didn't want to watch Xiaosun's act any longer, so I laid it all out. "I saw everything that happened between you and Song Yun in the carriage." Xiaosun suddenly fell silent. "When you had Song Yun pinned on the bed, kissing her passionately, did it ever cross your mind that I, carrying your child, was standing right outside? When you helped Song Yun slander and accuse me, did you even notice the burn on my hand?" "Xiaosun, you're still putting on an act even now. It's absolutely disgusting." Xiaosun's voice was strained. "Wanwan, it's not what you think. It's all a misunderstanding. Please let me explain." "What's left to explain?" I said coldly. "Song Yun is just a woman. If you wanted to keep your distance, you could have, but you indulged her behavior instead. You say you only see her as a sister, but you've done everything short of sleeping with her. How do you explain that?" Xiaosun said in a panicked tone. "Wanwan, I know you're furious right now, but please, just give me a chance, okay? Just come home first. Whatever the misunderstanding is, we can talk it out face to face." "No need," I said coldly. "I'll come find you after the new year, and we can get the divorce certificate sorted out then." Xiaosun was incredulous. "You want a divorce? What else? Keep you around to make myself miserable?" After saying that, I hung up the phone and blocked Xia. After hanging up the phone, my mother asked with concern, "Sweetheart, are you sure you want to terminate the pregnancy? It's already been 6 months." Seeing the worry and heartache in my mother's eyes, years of pent-up sorrow came flooding out all at once. Tears streamed down my face as I placed a hand on my belly and nodded solemnly, "I'm sure. I never want to have anything to do with Xia ever again." My parents couldn't talk me out of it. In the end, after careful consideration, they helped me find the best hospital in the city. While signing the waiver, the doctor asked, "Ma'am, are you sure you want to terminate the pregnancy? The fetus is already fully formed." I kept my eyes downcast, my voice firm, "I'm sure." 2 hours later, I ran my hand over my flat abdomen and felt nothing but profound relief. After I was discharged from the hospital, my mom devoted herself to taking care of me, constantly coming up with new ways to cook all my favorite dishes. My body, weakened by the induced abortion, gradually recovered under my mother's attentive care. I haven't been idle these past few days either. I hired a lawyer to draft the divorce papers, but a week after returning to Jiang City, I ran into Xia right downstairs. I had just come back from shopping with a friend. I hadn't seen Xia in a long time, and he had changed so much I didn't even recognize him at first glance. His cheeks were gaunt, with dark circles under his eyes, which were shot through with crimson veins. I had never seen Xia like this before. From his student days to his professional career, he had always been dashing and polished, never as dejected and worn out as he was now. When he saw me, a light flickered in his hollow eyes. He rushed towards me and pulled me into a tight embrace. "Wan, I've finally found you. I've missed you so much." He clung to me like a drowning man clutching a lifebuoy, his embrace so fierce it felt as if he wanted to fuse me into his very bones. I shoved him away with all my strength, my voice dripping with disgust. "Don't touch me." Seeing the revulsion in my eyes, Xia panicked, utterly at a loss for what to do. He was about to say more, but suddenly froze in place, staring at my stomach in disbelief. "Awan, where is our child?" I glanced at my flat abdomen and let out a cold laugh. "I got rid of it." Xia's face instantly drained of all color. He grabbed my shoulders, his eyes bloodshot as he roared at me, "I don't believe you. You're lying to me, aren't you?" I gave a mocking smile. "Whether I'm lying or not, you know the truth in your heart." Xia swayed unsteadily. "Why, Awan? Do you hate me so much that you'd even abandon our child?" I let out a scornful laugh. "Xia, back then, I defied my parents and friends to marry you without a second thought, because I believed you wouldn't let me down. It's just a shame you proved me wrong. In that case, I want neither you nor the child." As I said this, I handed him the divorce papers I always carried in my bag. "Sign these divorce papers, and let's part ways amicably from now on." Xia didn't take them. He turned and went home, utterly devastated. His parents were so furious when they found out I not only wanted a divorce but also had an abortion that they tore into me in the family group chat. The reason they hadn't bothered me before was because I had blocked all their contact information, but I never left the family group. "Lin Wan, you're being too impulsive, child. I know what happened. It was just that Xiaoyun couldn't stand for so long and wanted to swap sleeper births with you. Why are you being so petty? As the elder, you should give in to her a little. You're a mother yourself. Honestly, to just run off without a word over such a trivial matter. And on top of that, you got our Xiaoyun taken in by the police. I don't know how your parents raised you. Over a minor issue, you throw a fit and run back to your parents' house. And you even hit the child. He's already 5 months old, my precious grandson." My parents were furious and were about to fire back immediately. I stopped them and posted the video I secretly recorded on the train, along with the one Songyun sent me. To the group chat, the relatives, who had all been blaming me, fell into a deathly silence. Xia's parents went a step further and just left the group chat. It wasn't long before Songyun sent me a private message, cursing me out. "You bitch, what's your problem? Playing the victim, are you? Why didn't you just bleed out and die when you had that abortion? Delete that video from the group chat right now, or you'll be sorry." I blocked her and then posted her recent chat history in the group. The group immediately erupted, with everyone cursing Songyun for shamelessly seducing another woman's husband. Xiaoyun wasn't spared either. They called him a spineless scumbag who couldn't tell right from wrong, siding with the other woman to bully his own pregnant wife. I finally felt a sense of vindication. Just then, my phone buzzed with a new text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry, I was wrong to blame you for what happened on the train that day. I had no idea Songyun was that kind of person. I just think it's ridiculous. What's the point of all these explanations now? After everything that's already happened." I typed my reply, "Spare me the useless talk. If you're truly sorry, then sign the divorce papers. You know I terminated the pregnancy, there's no future for us. After a long while, Siasun replied okay. The 1-month cooling off period for divorce passed quickly, and Siasun and I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to finalize our divorce, staring at the bright red divorce certificate. Siasun suddenly broke down in tears. Wan, he sobbed, is there really no going back? I know I was wrong. I was just about to say something when a coat was draped over my shoulders. Sis Lin, it's still chilly in early spring, make sure you keep warm. Siasun pointed in disbelief at the trendy young man behind me. Lin Wan, who is he? Before I could answer, the young man said with a grin, I'm Sis Lin's admirer. Since you're divorced now, stop pestering her. I smiled without offering an explanation and left with him. This is a colleague from my new company, Su Zhou. He's very young, having just graduated from university. He's handsome, dresses stylishly, has a smooth tongue, and is very likable. But right now, I'm not looking to start a new relationship. Su Zhou could tell what I was thinking. He reassured me, don't worry, Sister Lin, I won't make things difficult for you. I'll be here to help you through this shadow, no matter how long it takes. I offered a faint smile and walked on without a word. And now, let's move on to the second story. For 7 years, the cold-faced CEO Lu Yuji was my patron, and for 7 years, he called me cheap. He said he loved me, yet he forced me again and again, making my time in bed a living hell where I begged for mercy and agony. He even made those humiliating videos public, just to appease his jealous fiancée. He said that if I behaved, I could be the only one by his side. But I've made enough money. I ran years later, when he tore up my terminal diagnosis and once again violently pinned me to the bed. My soul felt heavy yet hollow, adrift in the air with nowhere to land. This is the last time. Lu Yuji, Xingchen, you should have quit ages ago. A girl as pretty as you shouldn't be stuck as a cashier. You should be a star. Today is my last day working at the supermarket. The ladies who heard I was leaving were even more excited than I was. They even pulled out notebooks and pens, asking for my autograph. I just smiled and took them. One by one, he pulled his hat down even lower, terrified that his wig might slip off at any moment. The hospital report that came out this morning says my leukemia has turned acute. I'm afraid I don't have much time left. Hey, what's going on here? The supervisor raised his voice to silence us. Headquarters is sending someone down for an inspection today. What kind of impression does all this racket make? She shot me a venomous glare. Don't think you're something special just because you're leaving. You still have one more day of work. Do you want your paycheck or not? I immediately bowed and apologized. At the same moment, a procession of fawning individuals filed in, surrounding a man in a sharp suit. I instinctively looked up and froze on the spot. The young master of the Lu Group, and my former sugar daddy. How could it be Lu Yuji? The fear I had suppressed for so long surged back up, freezing me in place. My heart hammered so violently it felt like it might burst the very next second. Before I could look away, our eyes met. I hurriedly pulled my mask up higher. Lu Jiyu, however, merely let his gaze sweep indifferently over me. His eyes finally settled on the alluring secretary beside him, and he leaned in to whisper something to her gently. He didn't recognize me. I breathed a sigh of relief, yet my heart felt hollow, unsure if it was release or sorrow. Don't get tangled up with a madman anymore, I warned myself then. As if fleeing for my life, I scrambled into the warehouse. The moment the door closed, I finally felt completely safe. Just as I strained to reach the cardboard box on top, a slender hand suddenly reached out from behind and held it in place. Before I knew it, I tumbled into a burning, rigid embrace. You're quite the little runaway, kitten. Lu Yuji, who had slipped in unnoticed, scoffed softly by my ear. Don't you recognize your master? My hair stood on end, and in an instant, it felt as if I had plunged back into that old nightmare. Many people used to envy me, saying Lu Yuji was rich, tall, handsome, and gentle in every way, that I had really hit the jackpot. But they had no idea about Lu Yuji's other side in the bedroom. Savage, brutal, tormenting a person to the brink of death like a wild beast. Even now, the memory of that pain makes me tremble uncontrollably. My voice failed me. Mr. Lu Yuji loved it when I begged like a kitten. He was clearly enjoying it now, in high spirits as he nuzzled the nape of my neck. Why the long face, kitten? So my fiancé sent you one video. Didn't I pay you 10 times your usual fee for that month? You blocked me, checked out, and just disappeared. And then you work as a cashier at a supermarket so close to me, playing hard to get. Lu Yuji's voice was slow, but the anger simmering beneath was unmistakable. He was waiting for my explanation. My fingers tightened around my cuffs as humiliating memories flooded my mind. If only my mother hadn't insisted on having my brother at such an advanced age. She died in childbirth, and the shock sent my father into a stroke, landing him in the ICU. Now, he clings to life, dependent on a daily dose of medicine that costs a staggering 40,000 per shot. I wouldn't have been entangled with Lu Yuji for this long, all for the money, or rather, I wouldn't have been subjected to his torment for so long, groveling and swallowing my pride. I don't dare to defy him yet. The longer I stayed silent, the more irritated Lu Yuji became. What? You don't need money anymore. No need to be nice to me. I do, I always do. I forced a weak smile. So, Lu Yuji has always seen me this way, convinced I'm a gold digger. But it's a shame, even if I were a gold digger, how could my battered body now possibly endure his torment any longer? I shook my head slightly. Mr. Lu, I'm sorry, but I can't take on your business anymore. Lu Yuji's expression instantly turned to ice. His handsome, sword-like brows knotted together as he forced out just 3 words. Why? Because I'm sick, I'm dying. The words had barely left my mouth when a wave of nausea, a side effect of the medication, surged up. I frantically pushed him away, unable to stop myself from vomiting. The foul-smelling vomit splattered onto Lu Yuji's trouser leg. Lu Yuji was a neat freak. My rationality at its peak overrode all else. I didn't care about the filth. Dropping to my knees with a thud amidst the mess, with trembling hands, I pulled a handkerchief from my pocket and bent down to wipe it. I'm sorry, Mr. Lu. Lu Yuji took a step back, then disdainfully used the tip of his leather shoe to lift my chin. Liang Xinchen, do I disgust you that much? Faking an illness to trick me, even if it's a lie. I'd rather it was heaven that deceived me. Meeting his beautiful yet furious eyes, I said with a bitter smile, yes, don't you understand yet? I hate you. Lu Yuji left. Before leaving, he deliberately let go. The cardboard box full of laundry detergent toppled over, smashing right onto my head before crashing into the pool of vomit. The loud crash brought the supervisor running, taking in the mess all over the floor. She planted her hands on her hips and tore into me, giving me a merciless dressing down. Without a second thought, she docked my entire month's wages, 2,000 yuan. It's not a huge sum, but without it, I can't afford my medicine anymore. I'll probably die even sooner. I didn't argue back, even though I knew I didn't owe nearly that much. Lu Yuji was just toying with me. If I dared to fight back, I'd only face an even crueler fate. Whatever. I tried to talk myself down, and after apologizing repeatedly, I made my way to the restroom, rubbing my throbbing shoulder where I'd been hit. As I tilted my head back, I saw a large, dark bruise had already formed where Lu Yuji's shoe had pressed against my skin, spreading all the way down to my chin. It looked like a hideous birthmark. I lowered my gaze, and my phone suddenly buzzed violently in my hand. The moment I answered, I heard the exasperated voice of Dr. Yi Qing. Liang Xinchen, the moment I go on leave, you sneak out of the hospital again. Your clotting factor levels are practically non-existent. Even the smallest cut could be fatal for you right now. I raised my wrist before my eyes and, as if possessed, pressed my fingernail against the skin, pale and thin as tissue paper. The pulse beneath was so faint it was almost imperceptible. Would just one small cut be enough to end me? I wanted to try. My pressing finger bore down harder, as if it could puncture a bloody hole at any second. Come back, please. Yi Qing began to patiently persuade me. I snapped back to reality with a sense of helplessness and said softly, Dr. Yi, I can't afford the treatment anymore. I'm not going back. Yi Qing fell silent for a moment, then sighed. I've told you, Xinchen, don't worry about the money. Promise me you'll be back at the hospital by the day after tomorrow at the latest. By the end. There was even a pleading tone in Yi Qing's words. My resolve to never return to the hospital wavered. After hesitating for a long while, I finally replied, all right, for someone like me, who's been ordered around my whole life, what I crave most is a little kindness from others. But this body of mine is just clinging to life. Why waste the effort? What's so good about it? A cold voice spoke from behind me. Startled, I turned around and instinctively ended the call. It's Lu Yuji again. Lu Yuji, not one for patience, grabbed me by the throat, his face dark as he demanded, I thought you were out of the business. What's with the doctor-patient roleplay with someone else? He noticed the bruise on my chin turning from blue to purple. You still bruise so easily. What about him? Does he enjoy seeing you covered in marks too? It's not that I enjoy it. I've been sick since back then. There's nothing I can do. On second thought, there's no need to tell him all this. Lu Yuji wouldn't believe me anyway. My silence only angered him. Lu Yuji's fingers tightened one by one, squeezing out what little air remained in my chest. His displeasure grew more intense. Why aren't you saying anything? I was on the verge of suffocation, yet my heart had never felt so utterly still. Dying like this doesn't seem so bad. Gradually, I stopped struggling. My hands fell limply to my sides, and I simply gazed at Lu Yuji with a detached calm. A flicker of astonishment passed through Lu Yuji's eyes. In that brief moment of distraction, he loosened his grip, tch. A cat that's gotten itself dirty, how dull, I'd almost forgotten, so many people have already seen you in that pathetic state, how boring, someone saw me. I collapsed to the ground, caught completely off guard. Those few, seemingly weightless words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. A deafening roar filled my ears, drowning out everything else. Tears, uncontrollable, welled up from the depths of my aching heart. A surge of hatred nearly stripped me of all reason. It was the first time I had ever spoken to Lu Yuji like this. It's because of you that I'm tainted. Lu Yuji raised an eyebrow, as if hearing a joke. You didn't feel dirty when you were greedy for money, you want to have your cake and eat it too. He scoffed and slammed the door on his way out. I have no idea how long I sat there, frozen in place. The once bustling mall had fallen deathly quiet, and even the lights in the restroom had dimmed. The phone rang again, but this time it wasn't Yi Qing. My brother was yelling, Liang Xinchen, where the hell have you run off to? Why aren't you home yet? I'm starving to death. You know that. A wave of bitterness washed over me. Little brother, your big sister has something she needs to tell you. My brother wouldn't listen. What's there to talk about? Get your ass back here. Then he hung up. My sister is dying. I stood there frozen for a long moment. Finally, staring at the dark screen, I muttered to myself, you're going to have to learn to cook for yourself now. It's a shame my brother can't hear this. And even if he could, he wouldn't listen. I struggled to sit up. Sure enough, there were 5-fingered bruises on my neck, merging with the bruise on my chin into one ghastly, horrifying mark. I took out my powder puff and applied layer after layer, which only made it look slightly better that way. When my brother sees me, he won't worry, but when has he ever truly cared about me? His own sister. I didn't want to dwell on it any longer. I dragged my utterly exhausted body out of the restroom. Suddenly, a dark, bony hand blocked my path. Suspicious, I halted. The new security guard grinned at me with a knowing chuckle. Hey girl, I never would have guessed you used to do that kind of work. A sense of dread washed over me. I instinctively crossed my arms over my chest and shot back. What work? The security guard's wrinkled face twisted into a lecherous, disgusting grin. Playing innocent with your uncle here, are you? I saw your video online. You look like a sweet little thing, but you're quite the little slut, aren't you? So, what do you say? I've got money too. Want to spend the night? He waved a few $5 and $10 bills, closing in on me with ill intent. I froze completely on the spot. The past I had been running from finally caught up to me like a tidal wave, sweeping me under. I once thought I would be Lu Yuji's caged songbird for life. After all, aside from his tormenting habits in bed, he was a responsible patron in every other way, never stingy with money when it came to me. Besides, I needed to save my father from the ICU and raise my young brother to adulthood, ensuring he had a bright future. None of these things could be done without money, but I never imagined that the video Lu Yuji coaxed me into secretly recording would one day end up on the campus network. In an instant, a torrent of insults and belittlement came crashing down, completely overwhelming me. He promised me he wouldn't spread it. When I went to confront Lu Yuji with red-rimmed eyes, he was holding a beautiful, domineering woman in his arms, whispering soothingly, all right, my future wife, the video is out now. Are you still not satisfied? It was just a fling with her, and it's not like I ever said anything about your little boy toys, is it? What's the big deal about me getting a cat? Lu Yuji liked to call me his little kitten, but I never realized he actually saw me as one, as a pet standing outside the door. I felt as if I had plunged into an abyss. My heart pounded like thunder. Yet I never found the courage to confront him. After all, I am just his cat. He is a young master from a prominent family. It's only natural for him to have a fiancée. It's not that I didn't know his sweet nothings in bed were lies. It's just that, sometimes, I let myself believe them. How pathetic. I was still in bed, desperately trying to please him, humoring him with a pitiful eagerness, but the sharp thorn planted in that moment had long since festered deep in my chest, rotting away a gaping hole and corroding every last shred of love. Through all those days of forced smiles, I waited and waited, until the day finally came when my father succumbed to his illness. Lu Yuji was busy at the monthly family dinner with his future wife, so he had no time for me. I secretly returned to my rented room, took my younger brother, and fled to a place where no one knew me to start over. That was the moment I swore to myself that I would protect myself. So, as the security guard closed in on me, I clutched my phone tightly and screamed with all my might, come a step closer, I dare you. I scrambled out of the supermarket in a panic. If I hadn't gone for the kill, smashing the security guard's head with all my might, I never would have gotten away. The furious security guard hobbled after me, cursing and shouting, you bitch, think you can play the innocent little missy with me? Go on, run. Let's see how far you get. I'm gonna kill you. I don't think I can run much. Farther, my right eye, swollen from the blow, was nearly shut. My back seemed to be worse off. Even the slightest movement sent a sharp, pulling pain through it. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. You was right. My blood clots poorly. The skin I'd torn from the fall was still oozing blood, leaving a trail behind me. Yet, my heart has never felt so free, at least this time. I didn't just sit and wait for the end. But why is it that I can never escape? The blood kept flowing. My consciousness grew hazy, and my running slowed to a crawl. The security guard stopped chasing me in earnest. Instead, he followed at a leisurely pace behind me, as if taunting a dog. Oh, so you're playing hard to get with me, huh? His grimy hand landed on my shoulder at the very moment I gave up all hope. An earth-shattering car horn blared through the silent, open-air parking lot. High beams flashed on instantly, lighting up what seemed like half of the gloomy night sky. I looked up in shock. Liu Yuji's Mercedes was parked by the roadside, his face dark as he stared in my direction. Mr. Liu, a flicker of hope reignited within me. Gritting my teeth, I stumbled toward him. Mr. Liu, please, call the police. Desperation took over. Without a second thought, I thrust my hand through the open car window, fumbling for his phone, but Liu Yuji caught my wrist in a firm grip. He glanced at me sideways with an air of nonchalance. Call the police, for what? My chest heaved violently with agitation. I couldn't believe what was happening. When I looked back, the security guard had already vanished without a trace. A wave of bitterness welled up from deep within me. My throat was so parched I could barely form the words. You saw it all. He was harassing me. Liu Yuji tilted his head with an innocent look, the picture of composed readiness. But isn't that what you're here for? How dare you call the police? That look again. The same one you'd give when teasing a cat. My eyelashes fluttered from disbelief to bitter hurt. I was frozen in place for what felt like an eternity. In the end, all my helplessness condensed into a sigh, and in that voice, lowered almost to a whisper, there was nothing but bitter mockery. Oh, I have won. I'm dying. Is it so wrong to want to lash out at the world one last time before I go? I stared at him, enunciating every single word. Perhaps when sorrow reaches its peak, all you can do is laugh. Liu Yuji's expression turned utterly bizarre as he raised his voice impatiently. Liang Xinchen, is it fun to keep talking about death? How could someone on death's door beat a man bloody? Don't tell me your illness has mutated, so you just want my pity. Is that it? My money? With a cold expression, he pulled a checkbook from his suit pocket and flung it at my face in disgust. Write in whatever amount you want. I couldn't dodge in time. The checkbook struck me right on the swollen wound on my forehead. I swallowed my cry of pain. Her eyes, which had been on the verge of drying, welled up with fresh tears. Liu Yuji never believed me. He didn't believe I was truly in pain, truly begging for mercy back in bed. And now he doesn't believe I'm truly ill, truly dying, and I truly won't be doing business with him anymore. I was such a fool to speak to him so politely. Fine, I'm not sick, and I'm not going to die. I kicked the checkbook that had fallen at my feet aside and waved a hand dismissively. But remember this, I'm not selling anymore. Don't bother me again. Then who am I supposed to sell it to? Doctors? Liu Yuji shot back immediately, a sickening possessiveness igniting in his eyes, which had been cold just moments before. I was just exhausted. Mr. Liu, can you just trust me this once? I can't sell any more. Is that okay? I tried to leave, but Liu Yuji wouldn't let me. He grabbed my arm tightly and hurled a string of ugly words at me. His lips moved, and a storm of emotion swirled in his eyes, all seemingly directed at me in accusation. Well, of course, young Master Liu, the golden boy of the Liu family, had actually been dumped first. By a woman, no, by a cat. No wonder he still won't leave me alone, even when I look like this, all bruised and swollen, ugly enough to scare a ghost. But when you're dying, you tend to have a short fuse. While Liu Yuji wasn't paying attention, I flagged down a taxi and made a run for it. What a cursed fate this is. I sighed with emotion. After getting out of the taxi, I stood despondently beneath the dilapidated building in the urban village, having just scrambled together the exact fare in a panic. In a daze, I held my whole riddled wallet up to the light of the street lamp, tangled with cobwebs. How could there not be a single bill left? Sis, my brother's annoyed voice rang out. His slender frame rushed over like the wind, his brow furrowed. Are you out of your mind? Only coming back now? I instinctively took a step back. My brother would never normally come to pick me up, is he short on cash? I awkwardly patted my empty pocket, but my brother impatiently grabbed my elbow and pulled me along. Come on, I bought you a birthday cake. I was even more surprised. You remember, my birthday. Only then did it dawn on me. Today was my birthday. Pushing open the door to the rented room, There was indeed a cupcake on the grimy, dusty wooden table. The candle on it was nearly burned out, leaving only flickering spots of light. My younger brother pressed it into my hand, deliberately avoiding my gaze. "All right, happy birthday, make a wish." The bright candlelight flickered, blurring my vision. My little brother is celebrating my birthday, looking at the only person in this world who shares my blood. My heart, scarred and battered, suddenly softened a little. He's my little brother after all. It's okay if he's a bit rebellious. At that thought, so many things I wanted to say welled up inside me, but when it came to speaking, all those words condensed into just one sentence: I just hope you'll always be happy. A bright future lies ahead. Don't end up like your sister, living a life that's neither here nor there. I offered my silent, heartfelt wishes. How melodramatic. Before I could even blow out the candles, my little brother grabbed a handful of cake and shoved it into my mouth, a flicker of guilt flashing in his beady eyes. "So annoying. I bought you a cake, and you're still talking so much. Just eat it." I was caught completely off guard. The sickeningly sweet, cheap cream smeared over the cuts on my face stung, filling my nostrils with its cloying scent. I broke into a violent coughing fit, and the dry, choking cake crumbs found their way into my mouth. So bitter. I met my brother's uneasy gaze and sensed something was off. The next second, the world began to spin. I desperately tried to steady myself in disbelief, but couldn't hold on any longer, collapsing to the ground. "What's happening to me?" My brother dropped to his knees with a thud and began kowtowing to me. "Sis, I'm sorry, but I really can't pay the money back. They've pushed me to my limit. I'm out of options. They said they'd let me off if you spent one night with them. Sis, please, you have to help me." My eyes widened in horror. The words of accusation caught in my parched throat, dissolving into a mournful whimper. "I'm your sister." For the first time, I felt my younger brother standing before me was terrifyingly unfamiliar. Ignoring my desperate pleas, he dialed the phone. "My sister, she's ready. You can come over now." Tears flooded my eyes once more. For a fleeting moment, I wanted to kneel and beg my brother, for the sake of our sibling bond, to show mercy and let me go. I couldn't muster a single ounce of strength in my body, reduced to writhing like a dead fish in the filthy mud. "No, I won't." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my phone lying just a few steps away. With the last of my strength, I tried to crawl towards it, but my outstretched hand was stomped on by my brother. He suddenly snapped. "Sis, it's just sleeping over for one night. It's not like you haven't done it before. Can't you cut your little brother some slack?" As my consciousness faded, I let out one last, piercing shriek of pure defiance. Yet, the stream of thugs filing in were not deterred by my outburst. It turned out I had never escaped the nightmare. When I came to, I found myself bound to the bed in a position of utter humiliation. My limbs were shackled with cold metal cuffs to the four corners of the bed frame, leaving me completely immobilized. In a panic, I tried to look up and saw Lu Yuji kneeling at the foot of the bed, calmly unfastening the silver buttons on his cuff. Those mesmerizing eyes swept over me with a detached glance, and he let out a derisive scoff. "I thought you said you weren't for sale. How did you end up in my bed again? First you sold yourself for your father, now for your brother. You really do love your family, don't you?" I stood frozen in place, screaming, "I told you I'm not for sale." A wave of sheer terror rose from my chest. My survival instinct made me raise my hand to strike, but the locked handcuffs caught me, sending me crashing back onto the bed. "No matter what I say, he won't let me go." "But with Lu Yuji, it hurts too much. I'm not afraid of death, but I don't want to die in such pain." My voice trembled, tears welling up in my eyes and falling one by one. "Lu Yuji, I'm really sick. Please don't treat me like this." Lu Yuji, who had already taken off his shirt, froze for a moment. As if clutching at a lifeline, I hurriedly added, "The report is in my coat pocket. Please, I'm begging you, go look at it." Lu Yuji raised an eyebrow, the chill emanating from him growing even more intense. "Liang Xinchin, you know what happens to those who lie to me." A shiver ran through me, unbidden. At the same time, a secret, vengeful anticipation began to rise in my heart. What Lu Yuji hated most was disobedience, from people or from circumstances. Now, not only have I run away, but I'm also dying. I can't let him have his fun anymore. Lu Yuji, with his paranoid and deranged mind, is going to lose it. I waited, and sure enough, as Lu Yuji unfolded the thick stack of test results, his expression grew increasingly grim. His slightly trembling hand suddenly stilled on the final page, the veins on his arm bulging instantly. The oppressive aura emanating from him was utterly chilling. Is this a sign of serious illness, or just a prop for flirting with her lover? Lu Yuji's slender fingers held up a yellow sticky note and passed it to me. It was Yi Qing's handwriting. "Xinchin, if you don't mind, be with me." "No, Before I could even utter a word in my defense, Lu Yuji tore the report in his hands to shreds, flung them behind him, and closed the distance between us. He kissed me fiercely, his grip tightening. I sobbed and pleaded, but he paid no heed. I don't understand. This is supposed to be something two people do only when they love each other. To the absolute extreme, why does it have to hurt this much? Those familiar, yet foreign things, all strange and misshapen, went in and then came out churning and churning. It felt like holes had been torn through my very insides, a mess of blood, as if everything had been shattered and mashed into pulp. Warm liquid also trickled from my nose, running down onto my chest. Lu Yuji, lost in his frenzy, didn't notice. His fingers smeared the fluid on my face, and in his busy cruelty, his smile grew even more contemptuous. You say no, but then why are you trembling, my little kitten, always saying one thing and meaning another? But he quickly sensed that something was off. If it were tears, they were far too thick. Lu Yuji switched on the light, frozen in place. He finally caught the metallic scent of blood that filled the room. Staring in shock at me, unconscious in the pool of blood, he wore a look of utter helplessness for the first time. Liang Xinchen, you're bleeding so much. I knew Yi-Chen would give me a hard time. Slowly opening my eyes, all I could see was a sterile white, accompanied by the familiar scent of disinfectant. A haze clouded Yi-Chen's gentle eyes. He sat by my bedside, his usual softness gone as he kept flipping through a few pages of medical reports, the atmosphere heavy with tension. Liang Xinchen, do you realize you lost nearly 10,000 milliliters of blood this time? You almost didn't make it back from death's door. The reproach in his tone was thick. I remember. I think I was taken to the emergency room, and I was there for an awfully long time, so long, that in my dazed state, I felt like I would never get out. I chickened out, burrowing under the covers, peeking through half-closed eyes. I scanned the hospital room and let out a sigh of relief. Lu Yuji wasn't there. Yi-Ching saw right through my feigned sleep and guessed what was on my mind. She spoke carefully. I called the police for you, because the examination of your body revealed. He trailed off, averting his gaze. I've seen that look far too many times. After that humiliating video was made public, the covert, malicious, gleeful sidelong glances and whispers pricked at me like 1,000 tiny needles. I must have looked a right state when I was brought in. It's only natural that Yi-Ching would think that of me. He still has feelings for me. This must be making him sick to his stomach. I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat, adjusted the already perfectly fastened collar of my hospital gown, and murmured softly, "Thank you." A pained expression flickered across Yi-Ching's face. "Xinchen," he said, "this isn't your fault. I promise that bastard will never lay a hand on you again. Rest easy. I won't disturb you." The moment he stood up, the tightly shut hospital room door was pushed open. Lu Yuji's usual neatness was gone, replaced by bloodshot eyes and the stubble on his chin that he hadn't had time to shave. Seeing Yi-Ching blocking my way, I couldn't even be bothered to look up. Get lost. Yi-Ching wasn't intimidated. "Hello. This is a hospital ward, authorized personnel only," Lu Yuji scoffed, noticing the name tag on Yi-Ching's chest. A frown of displeasure creased his brow. Tension crackled between the two men. Them fighting in the hospital is the last thing I need right now. I spoke up helplessly. "Dr. Yi, could you step out for a moment? I need to talk to Lu Yuji." Yi-Ching looked back at me in disbelief. I managed a faint, strained smile in his direction, and only then did he reluctantly shoot Lu Yuji a glare before leaving. Lu Yuji watched the door slam shut, a flicker of triumph flashing in his eyes. He turned to me, his tone still accusatory. "Is he your new lover?" I turned my head away, ignoring him. The hospital room fell into a heavy, ominous silence, like the calm before a volcanic eruption. Leaning against the propped-up pillow with my eyes closed, I waited for Lu Yuji to demand an answer in a furious rage. To my surprise, Lu Yuji remained silent. He dragged the folding chair from the other side of the bed and planted himself right in front of me, his voice unnervingly gentle. "Liang Xinchen, what's really going on with you? What's going on with me? Isn't it obvious?" I repeated wearily once more. "I told you, I'm dying." "Liang, Xin, Chen." Lu Yuji called out my name, enunciating each syllable with a heavy, deliberate force, as if I had committed some unforgivable sin. "I've said it before, joking about death is not funny." I narrowed my eyes, looking at him as if he were a fool, a wave of utter weariness washing over me. "Fine, so I'm deficient in vitamin C, and that's why my nose bled. Happy now? Are you satisfied?" The trailing note of my voice betrayed the hatred I couldn't conceal. Lu Yuji got the answer he wanted, yet he showed no pleasure. Instead, he brought up another matter entirely. "A few days ago, you misunderstood me. I followed you home and saw you being carried out by a group of people. I later found out you're Brother had borrowed money online for gaming and couldn't pay it back, so, my heart was as cold as my expression. Someone who's nearly died once truly cares about nothing anymore. Liu Yuji still thought he could use my brother to control me. Don't worry, I've paid off your brother's debt. I've also sent those thugs packing. They won't bother you again. As he spoke, he inexplicably took my hand and asked with earnest sincerity, Shinchan, you've been through so much all these years, let me take care of you. Alright. I pulled my hand back and retorted with a bitter laugh. So, am I supposed to thank you for saving me? Is crawling into your bed supposed to be some kind of honor? I didn't want to speak to Liu Yuji anymore. I lowered my head, yanked out the 4-line, forced myself out of bed, and limped toward the door. If my brother owes you money, go collect it from him. If he gets beaten to death by some thugs, that's none of my business. You do you. Save whoever you want. It's none of my damn business. My words were tough, but my body was weak. My legs felt like cheap, brittle chopsticks. I'd only taken a few steps before they buckled, sending me crashing to my knees. Liang Shinchan, Liu Yuji called out to me urgently and, without another word, swept me up into his arms. Confronted with my guarded expression, his voice grew hoarse, as domineering as ever. You can't be discharged. You need to stay and replenish your vitamin C. The Liu family had deep pockets after I was transferred from the general ward to the VIP suite. The familiar medications I was used to vanished. In their place, a bewildering array of drugs with obscure, complicated names were pumped into my body day and night through thin, snaking tubes. There were occasional good days, but they were few and far between. My younger brother came to visit once, but I turned my back to him and pretended to be asleep. Liu Yuji understood my silent plea and later made sure he wasn't allowed back in. Day by day, I grew thinner and thinner, wasting away to almost nothing in my sickbed. As if a gentle breeze could carry me off, Liu Yuji stayed by my side almost the entire day. The 4 drips were painful, and my body ached all over. I would snap at him every single day. Do I really need this much fluid? Liu Yuji answered with absolute certainty, saying yes. He's not just a fool now, he's blind to the truth as well. The medical record states it clearly. My chronic leukemia has progressed to the acute phase. With the illness having advanced this far, not even a miracle worker could save me now. My fate is sealed. Liu Yuji didn't see it that way. Slowly peeling an apple, he suggested, how about we go to the States in a few days? Didn't you want to see the ocean under an LA sunset? No way. I'm firm on this. The beaches of LA. I've known for days he's been in touch with a hospital there, talking about trialing some new treatment on me. The thought of more suffering is one thing, but what if it actually works? Then I'd really be stuck with Liu Yuji for the rest of my life. How revolting. With that thought, I forced myself up and grabbed the whip from the nightstand. I swung it with all my might, but the heavy whip merely gave a lazy flick, tapping Liu Yuji's ankle. Nothing happened. I eyed the floor with suspicion, then turned my skeptical gaze to Liu Yuji. With a resigned sigh, Liu Yuji took the whip. A sharp crack of the whip rang out, and I froze in fright. After a long moment, the familiar, searing pain didn't come. Timidly, I opened my eyes. The lash fell upon Liu Yuji himself, splitting the skin and flesh of his taut forearm muscle. Unlike me, however, Liu Yuji showed no particular change in expression. Steadying my nerves, I lit the red candle beside me, lifted it, and let the scalding wax drip onto the torn wound. Liu Yuji shuddered, but in the end, he bore it in silence. I made him put on those humiliating rags and a collar, then crawl around the hospital room on all 4s and bark like a dog. I even brought out those toys. I was too weak to do much, so he ended up hurting himself. So, even Liu Yuji could be brought this low. I laughed hysterically for a moment, but the amusement quickly faded into boredom. Exhausted, I sank back into the bed. After tidying up, Liu Yuji gathered his courage and lay down beside my hand, his coarse sideburns gently brushing against my gaunt fingers. Shinchan, are you happy now? I let out a weary sigh, feeling utterly hollow inside. Why does hurting others make you happy? Liu Yuji clearly hadn't expected me to ask that. He hesitated for a long moment before finally saying, I'm sorry. I pretended not to hear. My thoughts drifted far away, and long-forgotten memories from the corners of my mind began to flash before my eyes like a revolving lantern. I don't understand. You said it yourself. I'm nothing more than a pet to you. Liu Yuji's voice was laced with unmistakable pain. I was wrong, Shinchan. You're not my cat. You could be my girlfriend, my fiancé, or my wife. He buried his face, and my hand was inexplicably damp. It seemed Liu Yuji was crying. Please, I'm begging you, get better. Don't leave me. Just get better. I'll accept however you treat me. I'm not going to get better. In the beginning, I could still stubbornly hold on to my anger and torment Liu Yuji, but this illness is too dreadful. In the end, I could barely breathe. And my life was sustained only by Lu Yuji spending a fortune daily to keep me alive. He wouldn't let me leave the pain of a terminal illness in its final stages is far more agonizing than any of those trivial squabbles in bed. What's meant to happen will happen. After all these years, I saw Lu Yuji's fiancée again. I believe her name is Bai Jiaxin. She wore exquisite makeup, her jet black hair casually swept up into a loose bun at the nape of her neck, the very picture of a refined lady from a good family, yet her eyes held nothing but a chilling, venomous malice. Bai Jiaxin stood by my bedside, her slender, delicate fingers gliding over the life support monitors. A single, casual press of a button could snuff out my life. In the end, she chose to clamp shut my oxygen tube. Bai Jiaxin asked languidly, "Are you going to drop the sexual assault case against AU or not?" I blinked in confusion before remembering that the case Shi Qing had helped me file was never withdrawn. The Lu family had just used their connections to get Lu Yuji out first. The investigation was actually still ongoing. A few days ago, he came to tell me he had managed to tip off the Lu family's arch-rival. This thing can't be kept under wraps anymore. No wonder Bai Jiaxin came to see me today. I felt a surge of savage satisfaction. My laughter fogged up the oxygen mask with an infuriating white mist. So, there are things even you people can't handle. Bai Jiaxin's expression darkened further as she produced her personal tablet. Displayed on it was the utterly degrading video of Lu Yuji on all fours, barking like a dog. The view count had already surpassed 10 million. She asked me, "And these videos, you uploaded them, right?" "Of course I never have, and never will, mistreat anyone." Lu Yuji guessed I wanted to give him a taste of his own medicine, but he never figured out which particular incident I was truly seeking revenge for. The agony I want him to taste is the humiliation of being scorned and trampled by all, stripped of his dignity. Lu Yuji, the young and accomplished heir to the Lu family, seeing him in such a wretched and vulgar state will stir up a far greater scandal than when it was just a young girl like me all those years ago. I really want to see how everyone tears into him, but I don't have the strength left. In a fit of rage, Bai Jiaxin clamped down hard on the tube. I instantly choked, starved of oxygen. My frail, tormented limbs contorted wildly in agony as the heart monitor let out a piercing shriek. This was followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. A flood of people rushed in. Someone ripped open my clothes and pressed several cold patches onto my skin. Then came the chest compressions, so forceful they felt like they would break my ribs, followed by the electric shocks that jolted the very soul from my body. So this is what it's like to be dying. Everything is so strangely calm. Through my blurring vision, it seemed Lu Yuji charged over and slapped Bai Jiaxin hard across the face. Then, the moment the doctor declared the resuscitation efforts futile, he dropped to his knees, weeping and begging me to wake up, to stay with him for the rest of our lives. Ugh, get lost. Who on earth would want to be with you? Lu Yuji side story. Liang Xinchen is gone. It took Lu Yuji a long time to slowly come to terms with this reality. He had no heart for business, no care for the Lu family enterprise. Day after day, he drank himself into a stupor in his empty, cavernous penthouse, only to wake and start drinking all over again. Lu Yuji became obsessed with his dreams. In them, Liang Xinchen was there. In them, he was good to her, and she loved him dearly. In reality, it was precisely the opposite. To him, the arranged marriage was merely a duty, so when Bai Jiaxin discovered he was enjoying himself a bit too much and angrily filmed him in secret to post online, he didn't think much of it at first. He'd just quietly take care of all the leaked videos the next day, no big deal. But after that, Liang Xinchen changed. She grew sullen. Even in moments of joy, she no longer kissed him on her own like she used to, nor would she nestle into his arms for warmth and affection. Instead, she would simply lean away and get up, saying indifferently that she had to go back and look after her brother, and then, to my surprise, she just ran off. It was this cat that abandoned him first. Of all things, Lu Yuji was going out of his mind. He'd searched for her for 5 whole years and was on the verge of giving up when, incredibly, he spotted her in a supermarket near headquarters. Liang Xinchen was still beautiful, though she looked a bit thinner and more worn. Seeing him was like seeing a wolf, yet he claimed to be sick, on the verge of death. Nonsense. Lu Yuji couldn't control his desire for Liang Xinchen, and her stubbornness infuriated him so much that he hurt her. Again and again, deep down, he remembered that Liang Xinchen was terrified of pain afterwards. Lu Yuji would think more than once that if he had been gentler back then, or had simply held her and talked, would things have turned out differently? Liang Xinchen had also recorded a video. The Lu Corporation's PR department quickly suppressed it, scrubbing it from the entire internet, but he kept a copy for himself, all because Liang Xinchen was in the shot too. It had been so long since Liang Xinchen had smiled that brightly. He watched those few seconds greedily, over and over, trying to sear them into his memory. After a full month of self-indulgence and utter despondency, not only by Jiaxin, but even his own father had grown weary of him. Stripping him of all authority and bestowing it upon the illegitimate son, Lu Yuji was past caring. He tapped the image of Liang Xinchen on the screen, reminded of the question he'd left unanswered. Why does hurting others make you happy? Strictly speaking, Lu Yuji wasn't obsessed with it, nor did it bring him any joy. It was just that when he was a child, every time his father cheated, his mother would take her anger out on him to get attention. She would beat him until he was half dead, only to then throw herself on him, weeping apologies and declarations of love. It wasn't until much later that Lu Yuji understood, if you truly love someone, you can't bear to see them in pain. Lu Yuji had no idea how he'd ended up here. His last memory was of hazily drinking at the bar, the world spinning, before he found himself bound in this cramped, dimly lit room. He was completely naked. A portly man wearing a Catwoman-style mask and a short skirt eyed him with keen interest. I hear, young master, Lu is also an enthusiast. Care to try something special? Before Lu Yuji could refuse, a gag was forced into his mouth, as something with fangs entered him from behind. A cold sweat of terror broke out all over Lu Yuji's body, fresh wounds layered over old, unhealed scars. What was once a tolerable, minor ache had compounded into an agony so sharp it felt like his heart was being carved out with every movement. Lu Yuji was on the verge of passing out, his vision blurred, whether from tears or sweat, and for the first time, he realized, so, her pleas for mercy, they had been genuine all along. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.